Due to the graphic nature of its content, listener discretion is advised.
From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea. First to fight for...
On this episode of Cigars and Sea Stories, Mike and Sebastian sit down with Army veteran of the 101st Airborne, 4 years in the Army, Mr. Nicholas Joy. Nick Joy is an MBA candidate at the University of North Carolina here in Chapel Hill. And we bumped into one another at the Raleigh Bunker Braintrust. That's with Bunker Labs RDU over at First Flight. So down in Research Triangle Park. Fellow veteran in entrepreneurship, seeking a personal relationship, met through warriorhall.org, which is another fantastic website out there. So super long intro for a really awesome guy, and we're looking forward to do a lot of business in the future with this gentleman. But we wanted to introduce him to all of our listening audience. So Nick Joy, thank you so much for joining us on Cigars and Sea Stories.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So what's up, dude? What are you up to?
Well, right now, other than being totally robbed of my time in the MBA program,
yeah,
working with a few of my veteran buddies right now on a project centered in sustainable farming and stuff. So we're kind of working on that. Just transitioned out of the life science industry. Wasn't really the biggest fan of the corporate world. Worked in a cubicle for way too long. So I'm trying to get out there, and that's where, like you said, me and you met. So it's been a really cool experience so far over at the Frontier at the Bunker. So
nice, right on. Yeah, and for folks who are pretty new to our audience, go ahead, click subscribe. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Player FM. Don't forget to do that. We're talking with Nick Joy here. If you guys aren't familiar with kind of what we do on the side here, we're passionate about entrepreneurship, and we're very passionate about working with other Bunker cohort members. Nick here came, pretty much the midway point, right?
Yeah.
It was probably around 8 weeks in that you started popping your head out at the Bunker Brain Trust. Now, what originally brought you over to the Brain Trust, though?
Well, to be honest with you, man, I've been looking around the area for about a year, ever since I started the program, and there really wasn't anything that was too veteran-centric. And so, just looking around and trying to meet people and connections and everybody in the area, and it's a smaller community than your Silicon Valleys or LAs and New York. So it's a community that you can kind of work your way through if you're good at networking. And the thing for me was just that I had a goal here to pretty much come here in this area and kind of lock down everything with with my school as well as everything else. And
no, I was just curious, what actually brought you to the Bunker Brain Trust? Was there a person who told you about it? I know that you're networking around, and it's been, some time that you've been networking and stuff, but what really spurred you to get inside of that room at a Brain Trust?
Well, yeah, that was really Dean, I think, mostly, because me and him have been going back and forth a lot, and I've talked to some people at the underground and some of those other bunkers, but just being involved, I asked him, hey, is there anything I can come out and just see what you guys are about and those things? And, like I said, I'd been talking to a lot of people in the area about a bunker kind of style, veteran-led kind of entrepreneurship. I've talked to some people in Maryland and in California as well about veteran-only, incubators and those kind of things, just trying to find one in this area. And then the Bunker just popped up right about a year into my search. And, being in the program, I had went over to 1789 Venture Labs for a little bit over in Chapel Hill on Franklin Street. That was a really, really cool experience. But I think I just really needed to be around other veterans too, who have that, that high hop tempo, the passion to, go after a challenge and stuff and just be a disruptor. So, when I found out about the Bunker, it was like money, like, this is great. I got to get over there, whatever I got to do. So.
No, that's awesome. Well, and I was just curious because one of the other guys that's over there, he's a third-year law student. Name's Cameron Neal. We got to have Cameron on here. He was the psyops guy. I always give him shit.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably out there like singing the fucking Candyman or something over the button speakers.
Cam's a great guy.
Yeah. Well, and you guys hang out over at UNC, don't you?
Yeah. We've actually hung out outside too as well over in Briar Creek area. You know, had some beers, coffee, things like that. You know, just kind of, it's good to be around another vetrepreneur, you know, if you will. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, then it's good also because what's funny about the area that I really like. So Cameron's the first one to tell you. He's like, look, man, I didn't pass the bar yet. I can't give anybody law advice, or legal advice.
right.
Probably shouldn't do that for the first couple of years anyhow. You know what I mean? It's an experience-based thing. But it's great knowing that there's other veterans who are in those different areas who are passionate about, in his case, entrepreneurship law, making sure that everything is set, the operating agreements are correct. Basically having a prenup for your business and stuff like that. Shit like that matters.
Oh yeah, it's valuable, very valuable. And I mean, I've got, a lot of contacts in the program and at UNC, but at the end of the day too, a lot of things remain in a business relationship. Whereas with the veterans, it's kind of been like, hey, you need what? Let me help you out here. This is who you need to call, and this is what you need to do. And there's really not like, it's really kind of like just understood between us too. There's not much of a expectation on the other side. So it's good to have that collaboration and that teamwork again.
Yeah, that's solid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those deals too because your understanding. We've spoken at length about this, but you're understanding the legacy economy side of things, the entrenched success. It's so great because it's like Richard Branson takes all the these brand new MBAs that have just graduated and basically locks them in a room and has them go over this think tank stuff, and then he pumps out all these answers and does the exact opposite of whatever these MBAs had to say because that's disrupting the market.
Right. Of course.
Right. So every once in a while, does it feel like you're a spy?
Well, it's funny you're saying that because, as I'm getting to this point in the program, I've got about 6 months left. I'm seeing a lot of different, looks in class. I'm seeing a lot of different people like, he's asking some pretty intriguing questions or like, challenging almost. And I'm going against what a lot of people aren't.
Oh, snap. The status quo be damned.
Yeah, so
Hell
it's kind of like that though. I mean, because like we'll have conversations, and I'm used to as being a vet. You're used to your op tempo. Like, hey, let's get the 80% solution. Let's go towards it. Let's figure it out on the way. Like let's ad hoc this, that, and let's get it done. And a lot of the planning that goes into making legacy decisions, if you will. Yeah. They take a while, and they also take a lot of different frameworks and a lot of different research. And, at the end of the day, what I'm finding out is execution is a very, very, big part of it. And so we can all talk about all the strategies and all the different things, but if we're not there to hustle and react in the beginning and get out there and just, be flexible and agile, then, we're going to end up falling into some legacy types of thinking ourselves. So, but I think that it's good as a veteran because we're, the military kind of puts us in that world. That's how we exist. That's how we think when we look at problems and stuff. So it's a really good thing to have. I just needed, how it is, Mike. Like I just needed to go out and make sure that when I'm coming to these decisions and I'm offering these recommendations in the future or whatever, that there's something behind it that says, okay, he's not just a veteran. He also has, his degree behind it. And education's a big thing,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Well, one of the things that I love about being an entrepreneur and having combat veteran in the background, combat veteran and being an entrepreneur is perfect in my opinion because of something that Steve Smith said actually, who's a Ranger officer and he does operational art solution. One of the guys who was doing the role playing at this last Bunker Braintrust.
Yeah, that was great.
And wasn't that cool? I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, that was really unique.
He had said something about the you never want to be sand tabled.
Yes.
So that's something big. Maybe you can attest to this in the 101st, I'm not sure, but in the Marine Corps especially, We had to displace like every 12 hours. Maneuver warfare, all of that other stuff. Now, we had FOBs, don't get me wrong. We would work out of those, but we didn't have, you know how it is. It's
Yep.
counterinsurgency. You didn't have front
Yes.
line.
Right.
So it's one of those things where it's like you never want to be sand tabled, you never want to be at a static position.
Right.
And that plays, I mean, so true today in modern business. We have nothing but entrenched success across America. And you can sand table it. They're not moving.
Right. And that's ultimately how I feel like the NBA. So the NBA program, what it really teaches us is how to sand table your enemies, ultimately, from a very, very high level strategic down to a very operational, tactical as well. You can tear it all apart in every realm. But, there really is a lot of that behind it that, you know, you said it the best, man. I can't really I've always felt like, I know you have too, since you got into the service, that now you're a disruptor. Like you have the ability to disrupt. And it's not just like, processes, because processes always need to be disrupted to become more efficient, rather than getting entrenched, like you said, building inefficiencies and all those things. But, just talking on the other element, I don't know. I just look at it and like you said, being in a combat zone, it gets you accustomed to, the unusual and unique operational tempo. You develop different types of skills in managing people, being a leader, and staying agile, like you mentioned, staying ahead of your enemy. All those things. Those are huge things that the business environment in corporate America could really, really learn from. And I think it's really interesting to see Steve's operational art, because I've looked at that and sort of seen what Stanley McChrystal's doing and some of the other ones, and it makes sense, because at the end of the day, you're going to really want to look at these decisions from an environment that can be a disruptive element, like you said, always dispersing and always moving around and stuff. And I think the military tactics, with coin and everything now, we're very operational driven, but we're very, what's the word? We're just very driven to being ahead all the time, being ahead of our enemy all the time in every way that we can, from operational intelligence to moving quicker to, shooting farther or whatever it may be. It's a great time to be. I mean, I'm more than honored to be a part of one of the best militaries and well, the best military that's ever existed so far.
Oh, absolutely. Well, then, okay, so tell us more about your experience coming out of the military.
So coming out of the military was real interesting, man. When I was in the military, I met some guys over there who were in plain clothes and stuff, and they're basically like, "Listen, you need to come to our side. Like, there's a lot of money there, And I looked at it and I said, "Well, I've got some plans to be an officer in the green and gold program, all that stuff, So I went back, dropped my packet, tried to get that stuff together, and my brigade commander at the time wasn't able to approve the packet. So, I kind of just went my way and said, well, there's a few buddies of mine that make a lot of money that said, hey, I need to call them. So, ultimately that's what I did. And I went back for about another 4 years. So after my 15-month deployment in the military, I went back every year for another 4 years, on other deployments, doing a lot of other stuff throughout the world and stuff. It was a really cool time. It was it was great for when you're young too, but
Right.
the family comes around and you got to really just settle down. So it's kind of what I'm doing now with you.
So there you go. So when did you join the Army?
2006. I was sitting around. I got out of high school. Went to community college for a little bit. Played some college baseball. It was great. And then we didn't really do too well in grade wise. So I got out, started doing some architecture, got involved in some architecture. I always liked design, thinking about designs and stuff. I love the challenge of it. And so, after that, I was like, listen, I'm in a cubicle all day long. This isn't me. I'm an ENTP. If anyone out there knows that Myers-Briggs, like that's, we're ready to go all the time. And so I just wasn't able to sit in the cubicle. So I joined the military, and it was great. I loved it, man. I loved every minute of it. I kicked ass in basic. I was always running with the guide on our marches, just doing a whole bunch of like type A stuff. It was great, and I loved it. I got into the bigger military, and I'm like, I'm eyeing SOF. I'm eyeing, the black operations elements, because I'm like, hey, this is where I think I belong. This is what's great. And it was.
Right.
It was a really, really great time to be involved with some MARSOC elements and some of the others, and just working with some true professionals, some of the best in the world. Like those guys to me are the athletes. Like I see these guys getting paid $120 million, and I'm not here to rant, but I mean these guys in special forces and all that, and the SEALs and stuff. Those guys should be making a lot more money than they are. And I know it's not about the money, but we're out here grassroots campaigns for these veteran organizations. We're out here trying to scrap funding together as much as we can, and for wounded warriors and whatever else, those kind of things. And it's just interesting to see how they pay mind to the athletes and they don't look at them as much as the athletes. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, and it's funny too because a lot of those guys are the quiet professional types, so you would have no idea. It's like, but then you see them training and stuff like that, and they're just animals about
Yep.
all that stuff.
Yep.
They look at the professional athletes and they're just like, oh yeah, those guys are pretty boys. That's funny.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't want to say that I was stud muffin by any means, but that was definitely one of the things that I saw out of a lot of the different guys who are passionate in the athletic department, trying to pursue anything and everything. I was the guy who was like, all right, yep, let's do PT. I understand. Yeah, it's for my job. Yes, this sucks. All right. We've got to do it. Like, I wasn't the guy who was like, woo, let's go, boys. All right, we're going to the gym today. Like, no. I lifted on on the second tour, I got swole as hell because there was nothing else to do. It was like NO and take a stack. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was high speed, specialist, I thought at the time, and I was really into working out and weightlifting and all that. I went from like 165 to 195 in the deployment. It was
right.
It was
Right.
Yeah. I was one of those guys who was like always pushing. I'm still pushing, PT and things like that. I have to, it's just a part of you. It becomes a part of you. You can't let it go.
So, I got a question for you. You did a 15-month tour when you were in the Army. Where is that now?
That was so I was in JBAD. I was down in Kandahar for a little bit. I was in Wardak province, a little bit of Logar area as well. I traveled a lot. Kabul.
Yeah.
I was in Kabul for a little bit. But I mean, that's really what I did. I mean, the whole time I was over there, even after the military, I mean, I was in Mazar-i Sharif, Herat. I was in literally every place that was, if you look at these coffee mugs you get from AFIS or whatever, or these towels you would get, right?
Right.
You'd have you'd have the major cities of Afghanistan. Like those were all the ones. Yeah, I've been there multiple times. I did a year in Kabul. That was really interesting. I liked that a lot. That was a great time over there. It was an international kind of a NATO kind of assignment thing, but it was great.
Nice. Now,
Yeah.
did you pick up any language skills while you're doing that?
I did not. I should have, but I did not. A lot of the things that I was doing, we always had somebody very close who knew what was going on or what to say, or those kind of
Right.
things. Could speak, a Terp could speak whatever we needed.
Right.
It was cool. It was real cool.
Right on. So were you doing your undergrad while you were traveling and bouncing around and stuff?
Actually, yes. So some education is a little different. So it's great to say that I'm at a top 20 business school now, but I'm also, 30, and I started this whole endeavor at 18 for college, so I'm a little behind the curve. But what happened was when I was in the military, I realized they had tuition assistance. And if there's any listeners out there who are actually in the military now, I highly suggest you get with your commanders and get on tuition assistance, because it's free money that you don't have to use for your GI Bill either. So it's like $4,500 a year for enlisted, and about $9,000 for officers and stuff. But I mean, you have the ability to use that to go to school. And so on most campuses, or on most bases, I should say, in the U.S., there's usually an element, a local college that you can get hooked up with too. And so I did that my first 2 years in the military, and then was able to overseas continue and basically finish my bachelor's, while I was traveling around. And thank you, American Military University, for that. But came back, went to Villanova for a little bit for some project management stuff, chasing my PMP, and all that stuff, because it's what the civilians tell you need and that kind of stuff. So
Right.
and now then I was like, you know what? I was actually sitting in JBAD with one of my buddies from AVSOC down over there at the 11th and stuff. And so we're sitting there and we're like, how many deployments are you on? And he's like, yeah, I'm on like my 4th. I'm like, yeah, this is my 5th. Like, what are we doing? So we looked at colleges, and I'm like, I've got a bunch of stuff for my GI Bill left, like maybe like enough to cover half a year of my MBA, which I did. Now I'm on federal loans or whatever, but that's a different story.
Mm-hmm.
But this is how it goes. And so
Well, yeah. And that's one of those too, to where it's like voc rehab can play a part in that as well.
Right. I just found out about how to go about that way. So.
Oh.
Yeah, man.
Do we hear Sebastian actually saying something?
Oh my God! There was no time to talk in between you guys.
Mm-hmm.
We just love each other so much.
That's what it is.
So I went out and I got some more bugs for the toad. So Sebastian, I don't know if you heard, but I was actually I paid Mike a visit, and I was able to. I turned the corner off his deck and I almost just squashed this huge toad. So I was like, what? So I picked it up, threw it in a solo cup, brought it home. My son loves it. So we threw it in a cage. We've got all these things for it. But every time we're going to PetSmart, we're getting a new insect or a new bug to feed it or whatever. My kid just loves it, man. Nicholas is just eating it up.
Nice.
That's awesome.
You should take him out to Fob Invictus with a tennis racket. Have him go after some carpenter bees.
Yeah. We were at the park today, actually, over in White Deer Park near Garner. It was awesome, dude. It was a beautiful day. We just saw wood bees everywhere.
Yeah, those things.
Yeah, those motherfuckers are eating Fob Invictus, dude. We got to go out there with badminton rackets and just thunk, thunk.
I usually like to hit them with wiffle ball bats.
Nice.
Every once in a while, a hand kill is in order.
Mm-hmm.
A punch. That would be Ultimate Gladiator. Oh man. One of the things I did want to talk about a little bit was, so I was going to ask you guys something. So one of the things I noticed in being over there, being overseas and stuff, and converting it to becoming an entrepreneur and stuff is getting in that rhythm of long hours, getting in the rhythm of a few hours to eat, a few hours to sleep, all that. Don't you think, that 15 months of doing that repetitively just kicked me in the ass, it totally changed me as a person. And I think McChrystal, he referred to it as the 17-5-2, in the order of work, sleep, and eat and exercise. But it becomes a part of you, it becomes it's what a lot of the legacy element, like you were saying earlier, Mike, they just don't get or they don't understand. But it's been almost ingrained in us to work and to, go after something so viciously and so aggressively, until we get the desired solution. So, do you feel that? Do you feel that coming out when you're thinking of these entrepreneurial kind of, the steps that they talk about taking and doing all these things?
Well, like anything else, it's your life now, so if you don't, then no one will, especially in entrepreneurship. That's kind of the way I look at it. And that definitely plays a role into it, that op tempo and the willingness to go after something, and that, to be honest, that's something I struggle with is keeping on that. In a direct way, it's not really applicable in the same way anymore, but it's not like I shy away from the long hours when they're there. It's just keeping up. Maybe
I'm just insane. Maybe that's what you're just telling me.
No. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes. The short answer is yes. Being a patrol leader on a patrol base and being a entrepreneur, Yes, the op tempo and the same experience and stuff like that. The one and only thing that I would say is I have less people, I have less resources.
Right.
Um, so that makes it a little bit more challenging as far as that's concerned. But one of the things that I like to highlight as well is if you have a high-end education, you're willing to work 80 hours a week, and you want to go into corporate America and just slay yourself over it. I
Yeah.
mean, you can make a really kick-ass living and
Yeah.
probably go be a really kick-ass like master of industry and all of that other stuff. If you're willing to do 80 hours a week though and slay yourself and take that same education and push it towards entrepreneurship as a self-discipline,
Yeah.
that's the extreme discipline. Like that's the extreme difference is that they're both 80 hours a week. They're both a high intense occupation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But corporate America is you're going to buy into the vision that somebody else has created. And that's totally cool. With me as an entrepreneur, I have the ability to create the vision, my own mission set. And that's what I have the ability to do in the core. And yes, it applies.
Well, just to give you an idea of that, so like touching on, legacy a little bit, like I had literally come to the point, the idea that the best thing that would be for so listen to how crazy this is. The best thing that would be for the company that I just left, would be to go out and start a company to address the issues with the current company. Like those are the things you have to do almost because and just that kind of thinking is the way that I think, like to
Right.
explain what you were saying as a patrol leader, having people, all those other things, like thinking like, okay, I can get people behind me. I can lead people. We all know that we can do that. That's not the issue. The issue is leading them behind the right idea too. A lot of times, for me, it was just really interesting, and I wanted to ask that question to you guys because I see a lot of similarities, and I see it like, even when I'm in the corporate setting where I was, I'd done it a little bit before, but mostly here in the life science industry, it was just like every day cubicle. Like I'm coming in at 7, coworkers aren't coming in until 9. I'm leaving at 3, and they're wondering why I'm leaving at 3. But I'm like, hey, I've been in since 7. It's just really weird stuff. And then sometimes I'm leaving at 5:30, and then they're like, why is he staying the extra half hour? And it's a really weird environment overall. And when we came to a conclusion that we had a problem, and somebody was going to disrupt the industry. Was it going to be us? Was it going to be a competitor? Was it going to be an OEM, an other supplier, maybe like an Oracle? And I was like, listen, we've got to address the situation from the head on as a disruptor. And they're like, this is just too risky. This is just too volatile, So legacy isn't really capable, I think, a lot of times of understanding how dedicated that they need to be or wanting to be as dedicated they need to be like we used to be. In those long hours, those 8s and those kind of things, working towards a cause. It's really interesting. It's been being in, corporate has been really interesting after being involved in the military for so long. So I know what you mean. I know what you mean a lot of times. Legacy is very, very interesting.
All that I'm trying to get at though is that if you want to rise to the highest echelon within corporate America, it takes the same commitment and devotion to whatever it is that you're trying to do.
Why not do it for yourself?
Exactly.
Because that's how they did it. That's how they did it. That's how all of them did it. I mean, I was sitting there talking to the CEO, talking to the CFO, vice presidents, things that happen with mergers, all the things that happen with, buyouts, all different crazy things. And I'm looking at it like, you guys are the ones who started the company. I'm looking at you. You did it. It's $1 billion company now. Like, that's awesome. But I don't really want to do it for you. I want to do it for me. And, your objectives might be misaligned, and I really want to accomplish the challenge. What is the biggest impact? I think the bigger the impact, the more money you're going to make anyway. So, but social first, then rich, ultimately.
I think it's funny the way that a patrol leader mentality can play into a scalable solution. And that's been the biggest takeaway. Like,
you're right, man. Because some of the best and the smartest minds that I've seen have really come out of that infantry element, and the intel and the infantry is closely aligned too. A lot of times they need to be a lot more aligned, but I mean, from the mentality of just awareness overall, and being able to digest everything. It's just infantry is a really, really special element for sure.
Yeah, and basically where I was trying to go with this is being a patrol leader leads to a business acceleration. So like I graduated from entrepreneurship boot camp for veterans. It got me thinking and scratching the surface of entrepreneurship as the discipline that it is. And it's a self-discipline. Somebody else can't make you a better entrepreneur.
Right.
It's a self-discipline that needs to be absorbed. They're both born and made. So you're born with that spirit, and then you need to make yourself as an entrepreneur. That is something that is inherently a patrol leader trait. A patrol leader is always trying to get better through discipline. The only person that they're competing with, truthfully, is themselves, but they have so much that's on the line because it's, everybody else is looking at them going like, okay, what are we going to do, PL? Like,
right.
Come on.
Mm-hmm.
And that right there is what I kind of like, that's the part of my brain that I always scratch in business acceleration, because I take, let's say, for instance, something that is like a fledgling company through proof of concept. Maybe they're making market penetration, and just they're in that initial traction phase. You turn on the afterburners and really accelerate the overall business. And that's what Bunker Labs is for. It's not for business creation. It's for acceleration. So that way it can like skip you out of the atmosphere.
Right.
That's the patrol leader mentality. Getting outside the wire, getting out, beating the bushes, getting in the tree lines, that type of stuff. Having the initiative to go and like, well, why are you going there? And it's like, what do you mean, why am I going there? To go fucking kill terrorists. What are you talking about? Like, why am I going? This is a fucking Super Bowl, and you're asking me why I want the game, like the ball? Like, what are you talking?
Yeah, right. That's what that was what I was getting at earlier too. Is just that like we want the ball too, like, and you want So for example, like you're a patrol leader, right? Like I bet I know a lot of people who were infantry as well, and they kind of get out and they think like, okay, well maybe there's a future in law enforcement or something for me. And I look at that and I'm saying, okay, yes, there is, but I really like to see is a lot of these veterans coming out into roles like business development and marketing and because it's being able to align that. And you said, so for patrol leader mentality, to me, I see business development. I look at these guys and I say, these guys can go out and they can network. They can go out there, like you said, pound it, and not be worried about traveling or doing a lot of these other things. Those guys are the guys on the ground. Those guys are infantry guys, too, a lot of times. And there's a lot of money in that. But I think a lot of people, they look at vets and they think, blue collar and whatever else, and it doesn't have to be that way either. There's a lot of vets who enjoy getting their hands dirty and all that other stuff. And, I'm one of them too.
Oh, yeah.
But I've just, I've also put on the tie and the collared shirt as well, because I know that adds to and enhances the ability of or the, the persona of being a veteran too, because we have just, we owe society in a way to say, these are the people your children should look up to. We should look up to our heroes, not to, these entertainers and these business or, these athletes that are running this thing as a business and whatever. I mean, I know I'm going there again, but you can obviously tell I don't enjoy that much. So,
well, and no, you're exactly right though, because what was funny about it for me is I looked at what we had done in service. You're a grunt in conflict, like in a theater of war. That's it. I mean, I don't know what else is greater than that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So you look at the challenge that's there, and it's like, well, shit, man. I mean, like, you're like the guy. How do I put it? You get down from Everest, and it's like, what are you gonna do next? And it's like, well, I don't know. Shit, Everest wasn't that bad. You know what I mean? And meanwhile, you think about like crying like a little bitch or something like that happened up on the mountain. You know, that's the way that I look at it is you kind of get back from these terrible challenges and you're like, well,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
wasn't that bad. Let's go. What can we do over here? You know what I mean? Like, oh, is there some other shit that we could fuck up over
Well,
here?
yeah, well, I mean, well, think about like what I said too. Like, so after the service, I went back another 4 times. Like,
Right.
so people are like, "Why did you keep going back to Afghanistan?" It's like, I love the challenge. I love the constant pressure. Working in a fast-paced environment became almost second nature. So when I came home, I'm operating like quick, at top of my game, like very, I'm moving a lot. My mind's moving everywhere. I'm analyzing every situation. Like I'm on top of my game, After
Right.
transitioning, like I mentioned earlier, I got involved in, the corporate killer, so I had to leave and I'm focusing now on some of my interests in sustainability and solving, some of those issues like people, planet, profits, not solely profits, that's too easy. I just think society expects more from us as veterans and being involved in that. That's an element of life. That's an experience that is so like, I don't know. I think it's magical, man, at the end of the day, because being a man and going overseas and like, I think you asked me before, you said to me, like, what was your biggest or what was your favorite memory, of being in the military? For
Yeah.
me, it was like, that was a tough question, but like I thought about it a lot and I'm like, I think my greatest moment was when my boots hit the tarmac after landing home after our 15-month deployment because it was just like that was a great accomplishment as a man, being outside the wire, doing the things that we did and flying around is just it was great, man. It was just wild to think about and you come back like you said, you're at the bottom of Everest. You're like, oh, well, it wasn't that bad. It's
Right.
hard to describe, but I mean, you're right. Like it's like, oh, let's see if we can get into something worse or something, that might challenge us a little more. Or I know what you're saying, man. It's interesting, but I
Yeah.
go through that a lot myself too.
Well, it's something too to where it requires discipline and focus in trying to stretch for those different experiences. You
Right.
know,
Yeah, exactly.
it's something where it's almost like in each new experience that I go through, I realize that I need less and less outside of myself. And it's more and more about people.
Oh, yes.
Like I
Yes.
remember in the beginning, one of the biggest things too was I remember going over. Maybe Juslin can attest to this also, but I'm like, shit, man, is that all the gear that we have? Oh man, we should bring more shit. We should bring more of this, more of that, more of this, more of that. By the time I went to Afghanistan, it was like, let's bring less stuff, but way better stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like, okay, what can I fit in just this briefcase and how low tech can I go while I'm on the move?
Yeah.
Like you're like trimming fat as you maneuver through the I guess I that's just the way that I look at it. So you oversimplify as you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cigars and Sea Stories is proud to support and sling Counter-Strike coffee. Counter-Strike coffee, I want you to know, is meant to be drink black. Now, I myself love coffee. I'm a big coffee drinker. I went away from black coffee for a little while. Needed the cream and sugar when I was rocking it with the generic blend. Counter-Strike coffee brought me back into the fold in a huge, huge way. They do a great dark roast. I'm a big fan of napalm. That's my fave. Smooth operator is good, though. It can go with cakes and pies, and I got a bit of a sweet tooth. I know a couple of us do, And then also Firewatch. I mean, Firewatch, that's going to be the kick in the ass that you need in order to get your day going the right way. You know what I'm saying? If you haven't already done so, check out counterstrikecoffee.com. Use promo code Cigars and Sea. You will get 10% off. Again, that's counterstrikecoffee.com. Use promo code Cigars and Sea to get yourself 10% off. Yeah, this whole entrepreneurship thing and just talking about it as a discipline adds a different layer of it. It allows people to create their own experience to whatever extent. And I think that right there is, you know, the reason why we exist. I'm just all of these different quotes are rattling through my brain right now. One of my favorites is by Mark Twain, and he says, the two greatest days in a person's life are the day that they're born and the day that they figure out why."
Yeah,
And
yeah.
when I figured out that I was an entrepreneur, I was like fucking elated. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. So entrepreneurs are like the rebels of the business world. Bing, right? And then, little Mike Penny is sitting in a desk in the back right corner of the classroom, wringing his hands like, yes. Oh my God. Oh, and that started like toying around with that little kid. I mean, dude, you know how I am. I'm like a giant little kid. I tell people all the time, I'm a little kid with a badass beard. And that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I've got 4 kids myself, man. I mean, I love
Right.
kids. I love, being around kids. It's cool because that's when, that's when the fun comes out really, and you stop thinking about, all the other bullshit. I mean, really, I was at the park today for like 2 hours with the kids. I mean, and that's the other thing too. Here's the other thing talking about, when you're, you, me, we think of it and we think like, oh, maybe people look at us like kids, but I think that they do too, because a lot of times, so when I left this company that I was at, I really left for a lot of reasons that some might say, oh, that's childish or whatever it is. But when I put my word to something and I say, hey, I'm gonna do this, yeah, like if this doesn't happen, this will happen, or something like that. That's ultimately, where it ends up. And I don't know really where I was going with that, but ultimately for me, it's just that's the thing is they look at it and say, well, why would you leave over that? You had a great job. And well, I left my job, so that I can go to the park with my kids, so I can go to Mike's house, so I can go meet Rob Elliott, so I can go meet all these people, that we need to meet and talk to about, hey, what's the cause? How are we getting behind the cause? How are we developing that insurgency? We've got to do it from within. We've got to do it the right way. And so you've got to live it. You've got to be involved in it. You can't just say, hey, I'm going to do this and not actually go out and, do it. And it's hard. It's hard being an entrepreneur, man. I mean, I don't care what anyone says. I've been in an MBA program with people who are making 6 figures on the daily, doing their legacy shit. And, I'm talking to them about, hey, you need to get out. You need to get out of the norm. You need to stop doing this. For my entrepreneurship class, they got us posting our favorite blogs. So I posted in there and I said, listen, you need to stop posting blogs and start doing shit. That's how I'm trying. I'm disrupting. Like, they don't enjoy me, I'm pretty sure, over there at the college.
Good. Good.
Just to say that well, that's the thing, right? Because I mean, they don't know what to expect. They just want me to come in, take the money, and just shut up, And so at the end of the day, we just don't do that, We just don't do that. So,
Right.
You want to fill a quota. You want to, you want to have 8 of 48 of us as veterans or whatever it ends up being, right? Well, I made the cut, and I'm going to disrupt. And I came there. And I told everybody, this is what we do. We look at the value chain and we see where we can cut people out. We look at where we have areas to cut out our suppliers. How do we do leaner? How do we do it? Like, let's go after it. Let's go after it like it's guerrilla warfare. Let's go after it like it's, planning and tactics. And I don't know. It's just, if you take a tactical approach and you look at it like a battle all the time, you're making a lot of decisions that aren't based on emotions. You're making a lot of really good decisions overall. And I think there's a lot we can learn from, just military tactics and business at all. And like I said earlier, Steve Smith's hitting it on the head, man. I would love to get my hands on that, that PowerPoint, because that's a really powerful presentation.
Oh yeah, and that business warfighter. I think I've got that actually. I can share that with you.
Yeah, it's intense, man, because I didn't really feel at home. So I'll put it that way. Like, so in the MBA program, I never really felt at home, like I've got a lot of people and they're like, why are you doing that? Or why did you send that email out? Or like, and I'm like, dude, who cares? Like, I forgot I sent that fucking email out. Like, are you serious? Like, what are you talking to me about right now? Like, we've got to, so I try and kick off a sustainability campaign, and everyone kind of just is like, oh yeah, okay, man, go ahead, and nobody wants to get involved and dig in or whatever. I felt like, since I've been at the bunker, everyone's willing to dig in. Everyone's willing to get in that foxhole and dig in and say, hey, let's hang out. Let's do this. Let's figure it out. How can I help you? How can you help me?
Right.
That's what needs to go on. And that's what I thought I was really getting, over at the school. But I mean, it's different. It's a different environment because, I mean, you're putting yourself, like you said, how does it feel to be a spy? You're putting yourself over there and you're crossing enemy lines and, you're talking the talk and walking the walk. And at the end of the day, all you want to do is disrupt. So it takes extreme discipline that we were taught in the military to sit around and wait for the right point to disrupt,
Right.
And that's just really where we're at. I think we're there in the agriculture industry, so it's going to be fun.
No, I feel you. I feel you in a huge way. Well, cool. Beautiful things on the horizon. Fantastic. Nick Joy, thank you so much for being with us, man. This is fucking awesome.
Yeah, thank you, man. This is cool, man. I enjoy it, and it's great to be involved with a lot of other veterans too, because I mean, like I said, it's almost like, you step in and anybody out there who's in the Raleigh area, like, come to the Brain Trust, because I mean, you just step out there, you just start talking to people. Everyone's, we're all veterans, so we all have that commonality, and like you said, there's 40-year-old women there, there's 20-year-old dudes there. I mean, it's like there's so many different varieties, everybody there to just represent. And so it's really cool to have, everybody around.
Yeah. There's a whole amount of diversity. There's a huge amount of like range, as you said, within age groups, different pockets, stuff like that. Yes, yeah. Absolutely. Well, and the other beautiful thing that I like about it is there is a variety of success that is in the room as well, depending upon how you want to gauge that. So you might just be in ideation phase and you're like, oh yeah, we'll see. Maybe you think you're an entrepreneur and you want to come and check out a Brain Trust. Do it.
Right. Yep.
Do it. The qualifying factor is that you're a veteran and, you want to add value to that room. Basically you have something that you can offer. That might just be yourself saying, hey dude, I can, sit down, have a cup of coffee, and be a sounding board so that you guys can do market research. Okay, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I was there, my first Brain Trust, I mean, I walked in with like, some ideas and different things, like you said, and everything else. And then I walked out after the exercises and the little workshop that we did, with my value prop, my mission statement, a lot of the other stuff. And it was like, okay, this is cool. We're checking boxes. We're starting to get going on this. And so it's a great place. And so it's been every Brain Trust after that I've gotten new connections, new referrals, just a lot of great things are coming out of it. And it's literally like, hey, Mike, this is Nick, meet Mark, meet Steve, meet John. Like, it's great. It just opens you up wide. And so there's a lot of possibilities for you to stay agile and pivot too at the same time. So it's cool. It's a great environment. I'd highly suggest it for anybody in the area to come out.
There you go. There you go. Don't take our words for it. Take Nick's. Oh, exactly. Man. Another wonderful episode on Cigars and Sea Stories. Nick, thanks for being with us, brother.
Yeah, thank you.
Listener audience, if you haven't already done so, go ahead, click subscribe, rate, review the podcast. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Player FM. Thank you so much to our sponsors, veteranslist.us, Counter-Strike Coffee, First Data being another one. We've got some other sponsors that'll be coming up here, and some folks who are looking to promo, books. If you're an author that's out there and you're looking to get on here, by all means, get in touch with us. If you've got something else that's in the works, like we've got a couple of buddies who have got some Amazon movies, documentaries, stuff like that that'll be coming out, and maybe you've got some events you want to coordinate on, get in touch with us. One of the things that we like doing on here is just promoting any other veteran event, especially for the ambitious ones out there. Maybe you've got a networking event coming up, something like that. Post it on veteranslist.us/events. Check it out on there. So, anyhow.
Yeah, and these guys, for everybody listening, these guys are the real deal, man. They'll open up a lot of doors for you. And I'm drinking. They got me drinking Counter-Strike Napalm. So
There
I
it
do
is.
want to say that.
It'll put hair on your balls.
Drink to Napalm.
Hell yes.
It done work good. Don't work good.
Hell yeah.
Cool.
God bless America. No one else. Thank you to our
America.
listening audience. Thank you so much to Nick Joy. Thanks to everybody who keeps listening to us. Hang in there. Share with your share with your network, if you would please, and give us your comments. We love hearing from you. Thank you so much for another episode of Cigars and Sea Stories. Juslin, cue the music, homie.